Hey, what's good everyone? This is Martin, and today we have the third video on the course of how to get into beat making. In case you just found this video, this is part of an ongoing course. The first video was what do you need to get into beat making, and the second video was how to get started on making your melodies and how to make a melody from scratch. It's like a 50-minute video covering everything I know. So if you haven't watched it, you should go and check it out. The link will be in the description. I think I made a playlist on YouTube that has all the videos and all the future ones. So today I'm going to be covering everything ranging from how to make your own drums, like drum patterns, and especially drum mixing, how to mix your beats. Because I feel like this is an area where a lot of people lack, and especially when you're starting to make beats, it's an area where we all lack. So I'm going to try and cover everything, just 2 quick things before jumping into the video, or 3. I don't know if I said this because it's like the 12th time I record this intro, but many people in my last video told me they preferred more dry videos, like not so edited, just conversational, as if I was talking to you in like a Zoom call. So if you like this style of video more, let me know and I'll definitely do it more and more often. And the second one or third thing, I don't even remember anymore. It's that YouTube stopped the monetization on my channel, so I'm not monetizing this video. If you liked it and you have the chance to and the ability to, you can support me. There's a coffee link down in the description where you can buy me a coffee. Third one, I decided to not use any of my drum kits for this video, any of my released drum kits. I'm going to be using this sort of stash kit that I made for this course. I know that it's going to get, I already knew before dropping it that it would get leaked to oblivion in a matter of days. So I try to make it as cheap and accessible as possible. It's over 700 sounds. It has over 100 808s, 100 claps, 100 hi-hats, you'll see. It's my stash. It's basically all the sounds I've been using for the past over a year now. And yeah, it's $9, link in the description and pinned comments. And having said all of that, let's just begin into the video. Let me move my screen over here. So we're going to be using FL Studio again, as we did. Oh, wow. Now I'm really stretched out. I'm going to be using FL Studio 21 as in the last video. I'm saying this because FL Studio is FL Studio and FL Studio has always been FL Studio, but if you're on an older version, there's many options that you might not have. I think it's not as likely in this case because I'm not going to be using so much the piano roll and mixer and other stuff, but still, if you're in your FL Studio and you say, oh, I don't have this, why is that? You're on an older version, you should upgrade. So let's just begin. I'm going to be using a loop today because I think it will be more insightful than if I use one of my own melodies, and I'm going to explain why later. So, as I explained on the second video, which is how to make melodies, I explained what a scale was. Knowing in which scale you're working in when you're making drums is crucial. It's important. It's not important, it's paramount. I think the British people say that word. So the first thing you're gonna do whenever you're using either a loop or your own melody is know which scale you're working in. And there's many options to do that. The first one is, if you have a loop, you can go into a website like tunebat.com. You can come in here, key in BPM Finder, and upload the loop you're using, and it will automatically tell you over here in which key it is. In this case, it's F minor. But there's one thing I really like using, and it's this BST called Tonic. Let me show you. It's $40 from Plugin Boutique. I got it because many times when I'm working on melodies that they're like micro-tuned, so basically they're not tuned to 440 hertz. You want to know exactly in which to which frequency A is tuned to, so it makes sense. So basically this plugin, what it does is it scans the music I'm playing and it tells me in which key it is and to which frequency A is tuned to. So in this case, as you can see, we're working in F minor. This sort of ring shows you the odds of it being one scale and other ones because this plugin cannot know for sure. So it tells me it's most likely F minor. So knowing all of that, let's just jump and start making our drums. The first thing is that if you're working on loops, this loop was made by my friend Murph. Definitely go check him out. His Instagram is going to be in the description. Awesome producer, really talented. I think he's from Russia if I'm not wrong. The first thing you will want to do is you want to come into your, you're going to double click the loop and you're going to come into this little sampler tab. So you're going to want to check if your loop is an MP3. Why? The main difference between MP3 and WAV files is the difference in quality. And MP3 files, if we were to boost this all the way up so we could see the wave frame very clearly, as you can see right here, there's this white noise at the beginning, not white noise, but like blank space at the beginning of my loop. And if we play it, you will hear that loop is not exactly on time. Even though the BPM might be right, it's still not exactly on time, and the loop is starting offset. And that's because exactly it's an MP3. So the best way to explain this is that MP3 files, they take the beginning of the file to store information like metadata and stuff like that. So the best thing you can do is either boost it all the way up, because when you're working on ambient loops, sometimes like here you cannot see where the loop really starts. So my recommendation, if you're in FL Studio, you're gonna come into the sampler, you come in here, pre-computed effects, and then you boost the gain all the way up to 100%. Don't play this because it's gonna break your ears. So turn it off, and you're gonna want to use this so you can see where the file starts. And then you press Shift and you scroll your mouse and you can move your file both ways. So I'm gonna move it so that it starts with like it actually starts on time. So now I turn the boost all the way down and my loop is time stretched correctly. The second thing you're gonna want to do is check whether your loop has the tempo in its name or not. As you can see, this loop says 150 BPM. So I'm gonna come in here, right click 150 BPM, and now my loop is time stretched. And there we go. Let me just fix that up real quick. And so the first thing you're gonna want to do when you're making drums is, I usually start, I'm gonna start this in the order I would usually do it. So if you're working on a loop, let's just say we want to start our beat here. Let's just start by the clap. I think the clap is a good place to start. Let me get like a really average sounding clap. I like this one. So we're gonna come in here to the step sequencer, and then right click, piano roll, and you can start laying your drums. So we're gonna build a clap pattern. The first thing you need to check is that you have use loop points turned off, because sometimes drum samples come with this and they just keep repeating itself and it sounds weird. And the second thing is check that time is turned all the way down unless your sample is time stretched. Sometimes samples have like a small time signature and something like that, and the time is like messed up. So we're gonna have this right here. And so the clap, usually when you're making trap drums, it goes here and then it just repeats every bar. You can select it like this and then Control B. You can do little alterations like this, for example, and you can like take the clap out here. And you can just play with your clap. My advice, honestly, when you're making drums, because it's not that hard, is just experiment. You know, don't stick to the very basic stuff. So move your clap around. Don't make it too much, too overwhelming, but you can move your clap pattern a little bit so it's not the same clap playing throughout the 3 minutes of your beat the same way. So it adds a little bounce. One thing you might be wondering is, how did I make this roll that sounds like this clap roll? So you can come into this green magnet over here in your piano roll, and you can turn a third step, it's called. So basically it's triplets. You can write triplet notes. So regularly FL Studio comes in line, and if you try to make what I just made, it would sound like this, which it doesn't sound the same. So you can just come in here, a third step, and then it's like your grid will become smaller and it will become thirds. So you can actually write triplets down like this. This is very important when you're making for example hi-hats, because you're gonna want to use triplets, and you need your piano roll to be set to a third step for it to work. So now that we have made our clap, we have the very basics of our drums laid down. I feel like the most important part of making drums is your clap, because it sort of gives you an idea of how the drums are going to be working. It's difficult to put drum making into words, and I'm trying my best. It's just something difficult to explain, and the best way I would be able to explain it is using the words that TM88 said on a Genius interview. He once said that drums, if you go back in history to the beginnings of music 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, the only thing you could hear was percussion, because that's what moves people. And once I heard that phrase, it changed forever the way I saw my drums. So your drums will always need to be on the front. No matter how complex or beautiful your melody is, you want your drums to be the battlefront of your beat. You want them to be at the very on your face. So don't hide your drums. Make them loud, make them present. And your clap sort of settles down what the movement for your beat will sound like. So let's just move into the hi-hat. Let's find a hi-hat sample that you like. Again, all these samples will be down in the description for $9. All of these, as you can see, it's quite a bunch of samples. It took me quite a long time. So I think I'll go with this hi-hat right here. So what many producers will tell you is, oh, you're making trap beats. You can come into your hi-hat, right click, village 2 steps. Congratulations, you have just made the blandest beat ever. And I guess it's a good formula. You can start with the village 2 steps hi-hat, but I just feel like starting your hi-hat pattern with the feel each 2 steps hi-hat just leads to predictable hi-hat patterns. So what I would recommend you is, if you're starting to make beats, you can start by doing this, because it will give you some idea of how your hi-hat pattern should sound. But if you're like an experimental producer, or you just want to jump into the water directly and say, okay, I want to make dope stuff, I want to make like more experimental hi-hat, I want to make more crazy stuff, just start your hi-hat only using the metronome. You can turn on the metronome up here. So the metronome will give you an estimate of what tempo you're working at, what speed, and based off of that, you can make hi-hats definitely. So come into your magnet, a third step, and then let's start laying down a pattern. So you can, again, as I said in the melody video, the most important thing is that you can project in your mind what you want to make. So again, as with the clap, I missed saying this, make sure use loop points are turned off and time is turned off to the minimum. So once you checked all of that, come in here, right click, piano roll, and let's just imagine how you want your pattern to be like. So just imagine it in your head. You can sing it out loud as well. So when you're starting to make your hi-hat pattern, you might have this really great idea, this really cool idea, but don't start your drum pattern by overcomplicating it. First, write down the basics. Write down the very core of your drum pattern. Write down the basics. So start very simple, start with the foundation, and then move on and start adding more stuff. But I would start just by layering down the basics, just like what I'm doing right now. And then we can press Control if you're on I think it's Control if you're on Windows. If you're on Mac, it's Command. Control L, and it will like sort of, it's called Legato. I think I explained this on the piano video, like the melody video. But basically, it makes all the notes like be as long as the let's say you have a note here and a note here. It will like elongate this note so that it touches this one. And then we can do Control B and copy it over here. Why don't I copy the finalized like hi-hat pattern? Like, why don't I just work on the hi-hat here and then copy it over here? That's because I don't want my hi-hats to sound the same. I want them to sound similar to keep the same basics, but I don't want them to sound the same on like both sides of my pattern. So what I'm gonna do is to basically work on the first hi-hat pattern here, then work on the second one here, and then I might even duplicate it and keep working on my hi-hat. Because what you need to understand is that I know that beat is like the beat is like 50% of the track, maybe less, like 40-30% of the track, but still you don't want to be on your listener ear for 3 minutes just blasting the same hi-hat. Just keep it interesting for the listener, you know? So let's just start adding more complicated stuff. So the first thing we're going to do is rolls. No velocity changes, no volume changes, no anything, just the rolls. So I need to have a roll over here. So let's just let your mind flow. So just repeat the pattern many times, play it in your head, imagine how you want it to sound, and then keep layering down notes. The key thing when you're making beats is to be imaginative. You know, you need to hear the track and say, oh, I hear this here, and I would like to hear this here. Just let your mind flow, you know? Also, do not overdo it, because that will definitely ruin your entire beat. Do not overdo anything. You can also play with the pitch of the notes, like this. So once you have laid your first part of your hi-hat pattern like this, you can start changing the volume of the notes to give it like a more interesting sound to it, because if you play all the notes at the same volume, it sounds kind of boring, doesn't it? So let's just start messing around. And now that we have successfully made our first part of the hi-hat pattern, let's move on to the second one. We can use this as a reference. But let's just make it different, you know? So I'm imagining like a repeated pattern. It's like a glitching hi-hat, and then it goes up to C. So I'm imagining like, I don't know how to phrase it, but I think you'll get what I mean in a second. just like that. And I can hear a roll here. So that's how we made our first part of our hi-hat pattern. I'm gonna do Control L again, so I can copy and paste it once again. So I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna change the velocity in these rolls, just like that. And I'm gonna keep on working on these hi-hats over here. I'm not gonna cut any part of the process so you can see how I'm really doing it. One thing you can do, which you should definitely not overdo, is playing with different time signatures. So if you're making triplets on your hi-hats, why don't you change it from 1/3 step to 1 second step, like this. And when you have a roll like this, you also layer down a roll at the same time on a different time signature. So you can do something like this, look, and it will sound cool. It sounds interesting, to say the least. So I think you can sort of play with that. So now let's also add like little notes, like little rolls that are like loud and add variety. So I would like something like, for example, let me add one big roll over here. So it's gonna be like this. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. And then we can just copy and paste it over here because, yeah, I think I'm good like this. So we have officially made our hi-hat pattern. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to show my secret sauce. So if you haven't watching up to the 23rd minute of this beat tutorial, I'm gonna show how I make my reversed hi-hats. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and I'm gonna open a delay. My delay of preference is Timeless 3 by FabFilter. So I'm gonna come in here, then half note, delay to the 50%, feedback all the way up. One important part of leveling and mixing beats is that you don't really need to make really complicated mixes for your beats. The most important part about making and mixing drums is that you level properly your sounds as you make the beat. So you don't want your clap to be too loud, and you don't definitely want your hi-hat to be too loud. So just go leveling while you make the beat. I'm gonna add a gross beat, then I'm gonna do momentary, no, it's basic 8, and then I'm gonna turn off the mix knob down here like this. Let's add an open hat. So I'm gonna pitch it up a little bit. Copy and paste it. I'm gonna try and make another open hat, so let's start adding like snares, for example. So I'm gonna... For the snares, you also want to have your rolls in 1/3 step, so change it back to that. And it's just like laying down a hi-hat. Do not overdo it, and let's just add like little playful rolls. So same rules applies as hi-hats. Let's copy and paste that over. There we go. And now let's add like a perk, for example. Let's keep adding perks. It's just basically like little sounds that... It's basically adding ear candy to your beat, really. I basically laid the perks at the same space where I laid some of my snares, and I like sometimes how it sounds to have combined a snare roll and a perk roll. So we have all of our drums. Here comes the most important part of all of them. So now you want to make your 808s, and if it's the first time you're making beats, this will be hard as hell, because an 808, you need to see an 808 both as like a percussive element, but you also want to see it as an instrument. And as any instrument that's tonal, it needs to be tuned. With tonal, I mean it has like a note. So let's say any of these, they're actually playing a note. For example, these two are playing different notes. So you need your 808 to fit notes within your melody scale. Usually what you want to do is make your 808 follow the root notes of your melody. The root notes for everybody, they are, let's say I have a chord. I have this chord. This is C sharp major. So the root note right here will be the last note on it. So we're talking about the bass notes. You want your 808 to follow those notes. So the first thing you're gonna want to do is, if you're working on a loop and you have stems, stems are basically like each track recorded separately, so you can take them in or add them. You're gonna want to cut the bass stem, which is this one. Then you're gonna come here. You're gonna click make unique as sample. You're gonna click save. This is gonna save a file somewhere. Then right click and then edit in pitch corrector. And as you will see, it will open this plugin called Newtone. And Newtone is a free plugin that comes with FL Studio, and it's like a pitch corrector. So you're gonna want to come here, and you're gonna want to press this little button right here that looks like stairs. It's called Convert to MIDI. So you click there, and you close this plugin. You can delete it off your mixer. You're not gonna use it again. And you're gonna come to your pattern, the one you have selected. If you didn't have any pattern, it will create a pattern. And you'll see that you have these notes right here, and these notes are your bass notes. So if you have your bass separated as a single track, as a stem, you can do that. You can pass it through either Newtone or Melodyne to know the exact notes of your bass. So if you didn't have the best musical ear, you can just put your bass through Newtone and it will tell you which notes it's playing. it needs to be single notes, not chords. It will not work if you're playing chords. So this only works for basses or sounds that you would naturally only play like single notes on them. So it will be very low on the piano roll. You can see it's in the octave number 2, which is very low. Your 808s will usually be on the octave like between 4 and 6 at the very maximum. So we're going to do Control A, and then we're going to take it up 3 octaves by using Control and the arrow up. 1, 2, 3. And as you can see, now it's on F sharp and D5. So one thing is that this great plugin will make your notes have different volumes. So you will need to turn them all the way up or to any volume you'd like. Just make sure it's the same on either notes. And then, as you can see right here, it's a little bit out of time. So we can just remove this note and place it where it belongs naturally. So we're going to do Control L and then Control B, and we have our 808 on both sides of the pattern with the rightly tuned notes. One thing we want now is to go into your melody. If it's a loop, you're going to add it to your mixer. I'm going to add an EQ, and I'm going to take all the bass notes. So as I explained in the melody video, go watch it if you haven't already. Basically, when you're working on anything that's music, you have, I like to call them frequency areas. So let me pull up an EQ and explain it visually. So the bass will be around here, the mids will be around here, and the highs will be around here. So for example, an 808 and a bass, they're within the same frequency range. So if you have a bass playing and you add an 808 on top of it, they will both be fighting for that space and it will sound awful. So we want to cut all those frequencies from our melody. When the 808 is playing, we don't want those frequencies. So we can come in here to the preset, click 20 Hz plus 18 kilohertz cut, and then we can just put it anywhere you like over here. That just works. One other thing you can do to remove your bass if you're lazy, because as you can see, this loop, it has stems. So I could very well just cut the loop and place it like this and just make the loop from scratch. But we're trying to save time. We're trying to grind. We need to make those 12 beats a day. So we don't have time to do that. I'm going to explain a physics concept very quickly. And this is called destructive interference. I think it's the name in English. So let me pull up like, where can I draw on a Mac? Let me pull up the snipping tool. So, oh no, how do I do it on Mac? I think, yeah, like this. So as you can see, this, I'm going to draw in here. So this right here, I'm going to draw right now is a sine. Oh, wow. It's very, okay. Let me screenshot it again. We didn't have that much budget in this recording studio. We just need to handle with what we have. So as you can see right here, I just drew a sine wave. If it looks like this. So if you have that sine wave and at the same time you're playing a sine wave that's like this, they will add up and start sounding together. That's called like interference, I guess. I don't know how I would call it. But basically, when you play when you add two waves, any sort of wave, it can be an audio wave or any wave that like you add up basically two sine waves just like this, they will add up to each other. But let's say we have this sine wave right here. I'm going to draw it really nice. Let's pretend that's a sine wave and not an M. And let's say we have a sine wave that looks a little bit like this. Can you see what's going on in here? Basically, we have the exact opposite of, we have this wave. And then we have the opposite of that wave, which is you have this wave and you have the version of it flipped out. And if you play those two sounds at the same time, or if those two waves like found each other at the same time, they would destroy each other. That's called destructive interference. I hope I explained it well. I don't have a physics PhD. I barely failed physics last year. So I tried my best to explain it. But at the end of the day, what's really cool about this is that music is math, physics, and like chemistry. You know, it all boils down to math and physics. So importantly enough, the concept that I'm trying to explain is destructive interference. So we have something that's called the polarity of an audio. So if we pull up any sound, I'm going to explain it with an 808 because it's best seen. If I pull up this 808, let me do it like this. You can see that it has a certain wave, you know? But what happens if I click on reverse polarity? It inverts itself. So right now, what we have is the opposite version of this wave. So let's say I played this sound at the same time of this sound. What would happen? Let's try it out. No sound will play because they're basically destroying each other. On the other hand, if I turn off reverse polarity, they both play at the same time and at a higher volume. Let's say the two waves, basically, they add up to each other. So what we can do with this, I'm really sorry for the long explanation, is we can grab the bass, we can make it fit with the beat at the same time, and then we can come in here, we can make unique a sample. Actually, we don't need to do this because we already did it. So make unique a sample. And in this sample, when you make unique a sample, basically what it does is that it like renders a version of the audio that's just the time selection, and the other part, as you can see right here, it gets deleted. So we can reverse the polarity, and theoretically, if we did it correctly, the bass should eliminate. So let's try it out. Let's see what happens. Can you hear the bass? It's not there anymore. So right now we just applied a very like elemental physics concept, which is called destructive interference. So all of this was to explain that you can just delete the bass of your melody without needing to EQ, because the EQ, no matter how hard you try, let's say you have a bass and your bass is playing in this range of frequencies, that's cool, but you also have other stuff playing there. So when you EQ like this, you're also erasing a lot of stuff from your sound, and it will sound very unnatural. So you have two options if you're working with loops. You can either stem out and work individually track by track, or you can just use reverse polarity. If you have a bass stem file like I had, you can just come in here, reverse polarity, add it at the same time. You need to make sure that they're playing at the exact same time. If not, it will not work. Let's say I moved it like this. It just sounds louder now. Or this. You just need to make sure they're playing at the same volume. Important, at the same volume. You need to make sure that the signals, the audio you're playing, they're exactly the same. They cannot be different versions of the same bit. That doesn't work. So you need to make sure you have the same sound playing, and one is like this and one is like this, and they will eliminate each other. We could do that with any sound in this melody as well. So all of that was to explain how to eliminate the bass from the melody if you're lazy. It took me more than just stemming out, but now you learned something new probably. Again, I'm sorry, I was drinking mate. I'm burping a lot. So we have our pattern that sounds cool like this. So I'm gonna grab one of my like hundreds of samples from this kit. I'm gonna grab one 808 that hits hard. I want the spins for this beat. I could really hear the spins 808, but like really clipping. So I'm gonna add this to a new mixer track, and this is crucial when you're doing 808s. Right click, cut itself. This, what it will do is that, you know, let's say we have an 808 here and one here. When this one plays, this one will stop playing. If we don't do that, let's say they overlap and it sounds bad, and we don't want that. So what we're gonna do right now is sort of break our 808. If my dad watches this video, he will say that I'm breaking my 808s and they will sound awful, but you can actually clip your sounds in a tasteful way. So this 808, as you can hear, it sounds really bland. It doesn't hit hard. So we can just come in here, pre-computed effects, and boost it up a little bit, just like this. And now it hits harder. So we're gonna copy the notes we had. We can just, as I explained on the other video, Control X, Control B, and we could just move from one channel to the other notes. So one very important process of making 808s is making sure that your 808 is tuned to C. And what I mean with this is that FL Studio, when you put a sample through it, it will automatically assume that it's tuned to C, to the note C. And sometimes the sounds are not tuned to C, and that will make you, even if you know, okay, my root note of my melody is F sharp and I'm playing F sharp, you see F sharp on the piano, it might not be F sharp. So you can come in here, and we're gonna use again the plugin Newton. This is really good. I haven't seen many producers doing this. So we're gonna come in here. I have a little like error on my Newton, which makes my 808s like look like they're on a different note that they are. So you can just click over it and it will tell you it's tuned to C. One thing you can do though, you can turn center over here all the way up and then variation all the way down, and it will make your 808 like be exactly tuned to C, no fault, no mistake. Then we can click this drag selection button and drag our 808 into the channel where it was. So as you can see, it sounds better tuned, it sounds more exact. So let's put back the melody. Where is it? So we're here. It's very important that when you're laying down drums, you come in here, view, scale highlighting, and you put the scale you're working in. I don't remember exactly which one was it, so let me just analyze it really quickly. It's F minor. So view, scale highlighting, minor, F minor. So we're gonna pitch our 808 really up like this. What this will make you is it will make you able to hear better the notes and see if they fit or not in the scale, you know? Because when you're listening to your 808 like this, it's easy to like confuse one note with other, but when you're hearing it really high pitched like this, it's really hard to like miss the notes. So I can hear that this F sharp it actually should be an F. That's something that can happen with Newton. Newton can mess and tell you, oh, it's like an F sharp, and it actually was an F. So it will usually be right around like which note it should be. So for example, what I did here, even though the bass note here is C sharp, I actually put my 808s up 2 notes, like the next note in the scale, because it like adds some tension to the 808, like, then you turn up. Bum, 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 bum. Let's make like a crazy roll on our 808s. And you know, you just keep building drums. And once we finished our 808 pattern, we can turn it down again to the octave 5. And as you can hear, it's perfectly on key, sounding amazing. Seems like I forgot to copy my clap over this area. So as you can see, the 808 sounds bad. It sounds like it's breaking everything. So we're gonna go into our master channel and we're gonna add something called a clipper. So a clipper, what it will do is, imagine you have a pencil, you know? Oh, I don't want to break a pencil for the example. That would make me sad. Let's find a very fucked up pencil I can break for the video. So I have decided not to break my pencil, but I'm going to make an example. Let's say I have this pencil right here, and this is the volume meter of our mixer track. You can see it right here. This is the volume meter. Let's say this is 0 decibels, and this is the red part. Let me mark it like this. So you can see there's a little, you cannot see it. Let me just scratch it. I'm gonna be right back. Trust me. I'm back. I had to sort of sacrifice a pencil to do this, and I'm sorry to do it, and it makes me sad to see it, but I think this will explain perfectly. So let's say this pencil is our mixer track. Do you see that little cut there's here? Let's say that's the limit. That's 0 decibels. Over that, you're in the red area. You're clipping, you're distorting. So basically, when you don't have a clipper, your sound can go over this area right here, no problem. It will go over here and it will clip. A hard clipper, what we'll do is that once sounds get here, it will cut them, it will distort them. How would that sound? It would sound something like this. Let's say we have a clipper. Let's find a clipper in my plugins. Clipper. So no, that's a soft clipper. Okay, I don't have any hard clippers to explain this, but a soft clipper, what we'll do is basically when you reach right here, it will cut the sounds like this. It will like basically soften them down. It will like round them and making them not clip. So if we add let's add a tier 5 classic clipper. This is my favorite clipper ever. So we're gonna add it here. We're going to turn the slope down. We're going to turn the 808 a tiny bit down, and we're already at mixing our beat. Our drums are pretty much finished. We can add more stuff, yes, but we're pretty much mixing right now. So let's turn the boost a little bit down so it's not clipping that much. And it's sounding real nice. So let's say, oh, I don't have tier 5 classic clipper. This plugin costs money. What can I do? Pretty soft clipper. You're gonna open it up. There we go. The same effect. Now, let's say you told me, oh, I want to add 2 808s and have 2 808s that play. Oh, I sweat a lot. Let's say I have 2 808s and I want them to sound like at the same time and do cool stuff. Let's do that. Let's actually do that. So let's add, for example, this 808. First thing again, first part of the process, pitch corrector. Let's check that it's currently like correctly pitched. I just heard it and I think it is. So as I told you, I have this problem in my FL Studio where my new tone is like weirdly laggy. T2C, perfect. We're gonna come in here to our spins 808 to the little gear, and where it says group right here and cut by, we're gonna put in both 1 or any number. It needs to be the same in both, like 6 and 6 or 1 and 1. Then we're gonna come to the other 808 and put those same numbers. So basically, when let's say I have an 808 playing here. When this 808 plays, it will cut whatever was playing from here, as it just happened. And if I'm playing here, I stop pressing and it still makes noise. This 808, when it sounds, it will cut anything that comes from this one. So let's do something like, let's erase this note and put it on this 808 and see how it would sound. Sounds crazy. And then we just basically added like another 808 that adds some variety and some like cool sound to our pattern. It adds variety. So we're going to copy it over here again. Control B. make sure that you delete the 808s that were playing in the space, because maybe you had an 808 playing here on the other 808, so you're gonna come and delete it over here. One thing you can do is, let's say I want my 808 to play only the length of the note. What I mean with this is, if you pull up a piano in FL Studio, let's open up Labs and get a piano. If you open up a piano and you make a note that's, let me go on here, hold on, that's this long, when it stops playing, it will stop playing. And if I make it this long, you hear the difference. That doesn't automatically happen with samples on FL Studio, but you can make it happen. So you can come in here, then you're gonna want to do volume, envelope, you turn it on, you turn everything off except hold, and hold you turn it all the way up, and this will do what we just mentioned. See? Let's turn it on. So one thing is that when you do that, you need to adjust your 808s so they're the length you wanted. I don't really want to do it in this beat. I don't need to, so I can just turn it off. I don't care. And we basically just finished our drums. We just need to mix our beat. So let's add everything into a mixer track if you haven't already. And your most important tool right now is your ears. Just use your ears. You don't need to add compressors, EQs, reverbs to all your sounds. Don't stress over it. If it's a big major track, there will be an audio engineer doing all of that for you and making your beat sound absolutely nice. And if it's a small production, you know, you don't need to. People won't care. Like, you only really need to mix and master your beats if we're talking that you're making it like a hit radio production. If not, don't even worry about it. So just turn up and down what you think needs to be turned up and down. You can also pan stuff to the left and the right. I think this sound has a little bit of low end and I want to take it out, so definitely taking this down. So also something that's important is to use both your eyes and your ears. But your eyes can fail you, so use mostly your ears. So now we're gonna come into our playlist. We're gonna click our pattern, right click in here, split by channel, and you'll see that you have a bunch of stuff over here. Basically what that did is separating every sound you have in here that's playing into a different channel, into a different pattern. So you're gonna come Alt, it's Command Shift and click. You're gonna select them all, then put them here, then Control B, and now we have them copied over. So now we have everything separated by channel, and that lets us do cool tricks. So for example, let's say I want it to sound like this. I want my 808 to start here, not here. I can do that, no problem. Let's say I want the bass, like the bass that came with the track to sound here. Let's try that out. I'm gonna take the specific part of the bass that makes it not sound. Like, you know what I talked about? Reverse polarity, destructive interference and everything. So I'm gonna take it down here. That doesn't sound good. Just do it like that. So as you probably saw, we have the problem that this 808 is way too long. So I wanted to stop here so I can play the bass, but I can't. And basically if I do this, it overlaps. So I'm gonna do what I just showed. I'm gonna come back in here, then attack, hold, blah, 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 blah. Done. And so this should be working now. Beware that if you do that, if you do these envelope thing, it will like override the cut itself. We did on both 808s. So you need to cut it manually. So now if I do this, listen, one sec. There we go. If I do this, it doesn't overlap anymore. One thing we can do is we can actually just, when you have your patterns separated and you have your notes like long like this, you can just cut the pattern and it will basically be like adding another note, because FL Studio says, oh, the pattern starts here. And then when you cut it here, it says, oh, the pattern actually starts here, and it plays the note again. I don't know how I would explain this, but you can try it out and you'll see that it works. So I want to have like a little bridge over here, and then I'm gonna start my beat right again over here. And then I want it to start all over again over here. So that was it for the video. It was a really long video. It's almost an hour. But I hope this helped you. I hope that it helped you understand how to make drums, how to mix them, well, how to sort of layer your drums and do cool stuff with them, how to add multiple, clipping and everything. I hope breaking my pencil was worth it. So yeah, I hope you really like this. If you want all the sounds I used, again, they will be in the description for $9. It's over 100, no, it's over 700 sounds. I'm gonna show it again. It's like a bunch of 808s, bunch of chants, claps. It's literally everything. It's the kit I would want to have if I was starting to make beats right now. And I made it for you guys, so I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, I don't know which video is coming next on the beat making series. So let me know in the comments, what do you want to see next? And if you have watched this video this long, comment the word grapefruit. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Thank you so much, and yeah, bye-bye.